Hello and welcome back for another edition of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Joining me today is Sarah, or Amber Salamander on Twitter, and Sutton Sal on various or non-league forums mostly, I think, isn't it?
Yep, I'm still non-league at heart, I think.
So you and I have known each other for a few weeks, and you're a very long-term Sutton supporter, and as always in awe of all of you guys who traipse up and down the countryside where I'm literally make the close away games like Crawley the other week, but generally I'm mostly a home supporter only. Anyway, so what we've got is the normal little thing. I know you've been on before, and some people will be wincing because that means that they know that they're going to get called back again. But what we're going to do now very, very quickly is the regular little Who Are You? So tell us all about yourself.
Well, it depends what you want to know, really. But I mean, I don't know what I said last time I was on. I think those people who are wincing are probably wincing now because they're going to hear me go on about myself again. I've been following Sutton for 26 years. Started going late 1995. Like you said, I'm a home and away fan. Very, very stubborn. I consider myself very lucky to be able to be this stubborn when it comes to never missing a Sutton game. I have, before the pandemic, I think my total was I missed one game in 16 years, but that's only because they wouldn't let me out of hospital. So now it's kind of, COVID changed all that, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of who I am in a nutshell. I'm sort of used to call myself the loud one behind the goal, but I kind of let other people be loud these days.
Yes, we've grown old disgracefully following them. Yes, so there's a few things you've kind of skimmed over because we're assuming a lot of people already know you. You reminded of this when I was listening to Terrace Memories, I think it was, you were on a couple of weeks ago when you did the epic bike rides to every away match when we were in Ryman.
That's right, that was the 2010-11 season. I cannot believe that it was over a decade ago.
It made me kind of think, hang on a minute, the money that we raised wasn't it towards a new stand or something, or the foundation?
It was the Community Development Fund, so it did sort of, we were looking at building new stands, weren't we? But the money's not gone anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's still kind of in the pot for doing things like that.
Yeah. Excellent, and it was a goodish amount of money, especially at the. It sounds like we're talking about decades. Well, it was a decade ago, but ages ago. But at the time when we were a tiny little club, 4,000-5,000 or something like that.
It was 4,000.
4,000. Yeah.
I was like, that's a massive achievement, not by me, but just amazing from everybody who put all that money in.
Well, yeah, because especially when you're talking at the time, I think our average gate would have been about 400-500. Maybe I'm doing us a disservice there, but we had a smaller pot of supporters at the time, certainly to call upon. But one of the things I wanted to do is to try and give some small amount of continuity to my big gap in between doing these episodes. And we spoke very, very briefly last episode about Doswell left, but just wanted to kind of in very, very brief terms talk about the 2019-20 season. So that was kind of Matt's first season, really, and we obviously then it got cut short for very obvious reasons. So do you have any kind of memories or anything you wanted to talk specifically about there?
Well, it started well, didn't it? If you remember, we had a good win up at Hartlepool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that may have been Matt's first competitive game in charge, and we none of us really knew what to expect, did we? Because Matt hadn't had a managerial post before, apart from obviously being an assistant at a few clubs, and we obviously knew him a bit because he'd been at Sutton for a few months as part of as you talked about. I think you talked about on the last podcast. Yeah. He'd been part of the coaching team, and I remember at that game feeling pretty good about the way things were going, which is a shame because of what happened later in the season. But obviously no one could have predicted that.
No, we did, and again, trying to remember back is a bit difficult because obviously so much has happened since, but we did go in with quite a few players. There was quite a mass exodus of players, and I remember there was kind of a I think we said underwhelming feeling of going for the the easy option, and then there were some dissent with people saying, well, hang on, when he was appointed, isn't that when our results started going wrong, and all this kind of rubbish. And I do remember
that.
Yeah, quite a few of us kind of older ones were like, no, this isn't what Sutton do. We get behind and go with it. But then we had a period of, I think, again, trying to think back, there was quite a long period of no wins. I think it's 2 months is making me, something's jumping at me that we didn't win for a couple of months, which at many clubs would have been a bit of a problem, but obviously we are different here at Sutton. And if I remember, I think COVID not saved him, but came at a very good time for Matt, because there was a bit of whinging going on at the time. If you can remember back, can you?
Well, yeah, I can certainly remember the whinging, and I can certainly remember, the impact of COVID when sort of suddenly it stopped things. But yeah, like you say, it's all a bit fuzzy now because so much happened. Because what happened next was such a massive upheaval. It's really quite difficult to kind of think back to when things were normal almost.
Yeah.
But I think you're right there, and I do remember people were getting a bit frustrated. We felt that we should be doing better. I will put my hands up and say that I was one of the people who felt a little bit underwhelmed by the initial appointment. But by that point, I was also one of the people saying, look, we've got to give him a chance. It's his first season in charge. He's getting to know things. A lot of players have left. He's kind of settling things down. You can't expect someone to come in, especially if it's their first time in charge of, first time as a manager. You can't expect someone to come in to something sort of quite so unsettled, because Doz leaving really rocked the boat at Sutton, I think, because he put so much in, not just on the sort of on the football pitch, but also off the pitch, and he becomes such a big part of the club, and it really did shake things up when he left. Although I think Andy said last time that he probably left at a good time for him and for us, just because he'd taken the club as far as he probably could, but it did shake things up, and we're all quite mindful of that. And I remember saying that give this guy a chance. He's come into. It's a really difficult time to come in. There was huge shoes to fill. And it was a really difficult time to come in. And of course, things were going to take a little while to settle down. And I can now say I was right. So that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was also... Doz leaving was obviously huge. But there was also... I think Jamie Collins stopped. And Nicky Bailey left. And there's a few, not necessarily players who are going to be playing week in, week out, because obviously they're coming towards the end of their career.
The hardcore, weren't they?
Yeah, but they were the dressing room. They were the guys that kept people in check. And it sounds like awful, but it was like, this is how we do things. And just the senior players, I think, is probably a better way of saying it. So there was all that going on at the same time. So yeah, I think if anyone kind of says, "Oh no, I knew this was going to happen," they're a barefaced liar. I think I'll even say the board would have been having great hopes, but not in any way, shape, or form what's actually mentally happened. But the whole COVID thing was, and I know that hit you quite hard with the not being able to go to the football one. I know you mentioned that again on the Terrace Memories you were on the other week. But one thing, just as I was looking at it, I did see that although the season was cut short, we did get to our magical 50 points. And so we got to our 50, and then they cut the season. It's like, do you know what? It doesn't matter. We would have been safe anyway. We don't really care. But yeah, it was a difficult time. Obviously, suddenly the familiarity of being able to go somewhere every Saturday was taken away from you. So how did you get to cope with that?
Well, I didn't really have time to think, to be honest, right at the beginning, because I work in social care. I work in social care regulation, and my goodness, that was a absolutely bonkers time. Things at work were just really, really bad, really, really difficult. And I had 2 small children to look after who were not in school, and I was used to them being out of the house all day while I worked. I had to homeschool a 4-year-old, which is not the easiest age group to homeschool. And effectively, at that point, I was working, in terms of person hours, I was working an 11-day week. So, when you've got a lot going on in your life, certainly for me, when you're going through something quite difficult, I always look to that kind of, football has always been like my anchor. It's kind of a grounding thing. It's always been a constant. It's always been there. The same thing I was saying on that other podcast, actually. And then sort of suddenly it's not, this one constant that's always been there is suddenly not there. So it was kind of, everything was very, very different, and it was really hard to cope with that. So the way I cope with it, to actually finally get to answering your question, sorry. I think the key thing was staying in touch with people from football, actually. We have our little message group, and we talk to each other quite a lot all the time, messaging each other in between like hectic work and childcare and looking after the house and all sorts of things, trying to get some food to the house. Goodness me, that was difficult. And just having my mates on the phone there. And there was a couple of times where we did a little thing. I had a friend from football, and we'd like watch a DVD. We both have the same DVD in the house, so we both put it on at the same time. We pour ourselves a drink, and we pretend that we were like sitting in the same room. We'd message each other about what we were watching, and that sort of thing. And it was staying in contact with the football people and talking. We talk about football all the time, even though it wasn't happening. And I did things. I went through a lot of bike rides as well. I think at the time I was like, all these things that were really difficult and really hard struggle for our mental health. The thing about those things was we couldn't control it. We couldn't control the fact there was suddenly no football. For some people, there was no work, there was no money coming in. For some people, like me, it was the opposite problem. Had too much to do. We weren't seeing our loved ones, we weren't seeing our friends. I couldn't control any of that, so I sort of went with, what can I control? I can control, like, how much exercise I do. I control what I eat and how healthy I keep myself. And I just turned into a bit of a health nut, actually. And I'm really glad I did, because I feel so much better in myself. And I've kept up some good habits. So that's how I cope, basically.
Very good. Well, I had the same homeschooling problem with the little one, because the big one was doing her GCSEs, and me and Sal were both working here. I'm afraid I made a very, very, at the time, shameful choice of I just bought her one of these tablets and let her crack on with her learning. It hasn't been all bad, because at dinner tonight, she sort of took her plate and she said, "Oh, Mummy, that looks delectable." And all of us looked at her going, "Excuse me? I learned that from my tablet." It's like, okay.
Well, I think that was a good thing. I think that was a really good thing to do, because although like electronics get a bad rap sometimes, actually they can be quite good for encouraging independent learning. And they do encourage, like, they're motivating for children.
It depends on what they do. For me, and I've said this many times to many, many people, and it's boring, but to all those kids who did GCSEs in that period, and I know I'm biased because I've got one, but I'm in awe, because there's not a chance I would have done it. Absolutely not a chance at all. Agree. I would have been nowhere near my studies. But anyway, this is way off track. I'm sorry, everyone. So, very, very brief thing of that season, and we did okay. It was all right. It was one of those, could do better. Sticking on the school theme, see how I linked that in there. That's marvellous. That, so could have done better, but it was a good start. We're going to leave the brilliant season. I know everyone's got lots to say on that, but we'll leave that brilliant season just to make people listen another time. What I wanted to then bring us a little bit up to date is to have a very quick chat about the last 3 games, which confidently Jenny, Andy, Joe and I said, oh yeah, we should get 9 points. And it didn't look that way, and it definitely wasn't that way, because you and I tweeted at almost the same time on the Swindon match, this lot are really good. So I know it was a week or so back now, can you remember much about the Swindon game?
Yeah, I mean, Swindon, I was really impressed with Swindon, actually. I thought Port Vale were a good side, which they were, but Swindon were just something else, really, weren't they? They were just, they really knew what they were doing. And obviously all teams at our level will, but they just looked very professional outfit. And I remember at the match saying, this is the first time where I felt that actually we're playing someone who might be too good for us today. And I didn't even feel that way when we played Cardiff City in the Carabao Cup. I felt like we could get something out of this. Even that. I thought Swindon on that day that we played them looked even better than Cardiff had, which is ridiculous, really. So I don't know if Swindon were having a particularly good day that we unfortunately were on the receiving end of. But I also, having said that, I thought to keep in the game, to keep the scoreline respectable and to sort of, to get one back to the periods of the game, we were looking. I don't want Swindon's performance to take anything away from us, because we were very good that day.
Take the first half hour And I know Matt said it as well, but the first half hour, it was a case of we could get an absolute hiding here and probably deserve it.
Yeah,
it was,
could turn into the Carlisle game that we won 4-0, couldn't it?
Yeah.
The other way around. But
But it was, the ball just wasn't, it was bouncing away from people. It was just every little tiny detail was going slightly wrong. Some not down to us, some down to them, as you say, playing so well. But then, yeah, this I mean, it's going to be a recurring theme of what we talk about for the rest of this interview. I think this group of players just don't understand this idea of, you can't, if we're 2-0 down, that means the game's gone. No, they just keep going. Got the penalty, and yes, in the second half, probably could have nicked another goal, got a draw, but it wasn't to be on that particular game. But it was one of the games. I haven't seen them all. I've watched the highlights, obviously, but one of the few games I was like, oh yeah, you know what, we can't fuss too much about that one. Even against Forest Green, we were unlucky. Exeter, very unlucky. But that one, you're like, okay, we were probably beaten in that first half hour. And then we did the same against Rochdale. We decided to give them a 2-0 lead and a man advantage. There were differing opinions on Twitter about the red card. I think you were firmly in the camp of it was right and it was silly, but some people still even watched it on replay saying they didn't think it was a red.
Yeah, it was the opposite side of the pitch to where I was, so perhaps I didn't have the best view of it. But to me, it looked like he lashed out, and even if he didn't make contact, it looked to me like almost a violent gesture, even if he didn't make contact, and that's not really on. And I you know, with apologies to him if I'm not right about that, but that's how it looked.
Yeah, it's one of those giving the ref a decision to make.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, yeah, if it had played out slightly differently, we wouldn't have necessarily had that decision to make. But even with that, listening on the iFollow service, we got back to it, and then it seemed we had one of those little moments of, we need to do that professionalism and go, no, you know what, we've just come back from 2 goals down, let's keep this ball, let's not go for it. But even the commentators were getting quite excited that we could go on and win this, and I'm sitting here going, no, just take the draw, just keep the ball. And then we lost it with almost, I think it was the last kick of the game, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally 1 second away. Before the end of...
But again, a brilliant fight back, and it shows the spirit in the team. I know people have spoken about before, and you can see they're friends, and you kind of have this thing of, I don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing, but when you're with your mates and you think, I've got to put the effort in because they'll never let me hear the end of this. If I don't, I'll just get rinsed about it in training for the rest of the week. But it must have been quite a long journey home with losing in the last kick.
Yeah, it was. I was really disappointed because, you know, I didn't think Rochdale were that great on the day, and I felt like we should have got more out of it. But the thing is, I mean, if we wanted to get more out of it, then we could have been better on the day as well, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but actually, football doesn't always work like that, does it? You know, it'd be like, oh, we've got a terrible record at this ground, but it's a lot of the time it's really just coincidence that, you know, that this. Yeah. So, having lost 2 games back to back, I was like, well, that can have a bit of a psychological effect, but it's only 2 games. Mm-hmm. It's not like we've lost 5 games in a row or anything like that. We've lost, you know, to a very good side by a respectable scoreline. We've lost to a very sort of, you could say unlucky, being as it was the last kick of the game. And we obviously didn't have a chance to get back into it. So, you know, I did go Colchester feeling quite confident. I thought that this is the sort of game that we should be winning, even though it's away from home. But Colchester haven't been having a brilliant season so far, and we've kind of been, well, I didn't feel we were up to our usual standard at Rochdale. That's not to sort of criticise the players. We have been unlucky with injuries, and we've had some really important players missing. So. But even so, I thought, you know, I think we can get something out of this game. And, well, of course we did, didn't we?
Well, the start was disappointing. I think...
It was heart-sinking, yeah.
Yeah, it was... I think the reason I mentioned the supporters coaches, I think some people literally only just arrived or hadn't even got there yet. And we were 1-0 down,
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
which was disappointing. But again, spurred them on into a bit of action.
That's what I love about these players, and they never say die attitude. We keep talking about that, but we keep talking about that for a reason, don't we?
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
Really nice spirit to have. And you were around in the sort of dark seasons where it was a case of you did genuinely think there were players on the pitch that weren't trying.
Yeah, they didn't want to be there half the time.
And now you've got players who they're trying. And yes, individual mistakes might cost us in different things, different ways, but every single one of those players are going on that pitch trying, and that is just brilliant for the whole team, and obviously Matt's recruitment and coaching policies. But yes, we got the win. As Sutton fans, it was a bit funny because I think Gandamonian were tweeting, it was like literally 5 minutes to go, we were 3-1 up, and there was we're a man up, and they're still going, you better hold on. I'm like, hang on, there should be a point where we go, we're comfortable here, we're all right, we're fine. But
never comfortable.
No, we just don't seem to get. I think even against Carlisle it was 4-0, we're like, oh, I don't know, if they nick one here.
I was just going to say that's pretty much the only time this season I have. No, actually, in the Papa John's Trophy against Palace, I felt quite comfortable with that.
Right,
because, we were clearly going to win that one.
Yeah. But still thinking back to the last few days, last week or so, I'm just going to ask you, and I know you said you didn't really get an awful lot of time to think about things, so again, it's putting you on the spot. I'm going to ask you for a good, the bad, and the ugly of the last week. So we'll start with the good, if you can give me what's your good of the last week or so.
What can I say that I haven't already said, actually? Because
it's fine, we can repeat ourselves, it's fine.
What I thought was good was, I mean, like you say, the way that we didn't let that early goal ruffle us last night at Colchester. We didn't let it get to us, and just the confidence did not go. That's something I love about this side, like I said. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can't argue with that. That's definitely good.
Yeah, perfect. And it's going to be difficult because, again, this good, bad and ugly focuses on two negatives, but give us a bad, if you can. I mean, I've got something I think is bad.
Okay.
It's not bad as in someone's done something. We suddenly seem to have had a spate of injuries just out of the blue. We've been fairly lucky the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden it's just a group of injuries, and I think it made it worse.
I blame the pitch because everyone else does that.
Yes, the plastic pitch, not having a plastic pitch, but it's also, I think it's just made worse by two of them being quite senior players in central midfield. I know Ali Smith's come in and done absolutely brilliantly, but yeah,
he's been great.
He's been absolutely amazing. And again, one of the interviews that Matt said is kind of, I was like, he's given me a big problem because I expected him to come on this season, but I didn't expect him to suddenly be so good so quickly.
Isn't that a nice problem, though?
Absolutely. And one of the other good things about the squad selection is the way we've got players coming on who can cover in different positions. And Barden, who is our right back, but then when he came on into central mid, it was like reminded of actually when he joined us, he was a centre mid, and he moved to right back. So. Yeah,
so for me, having a fantastic season though.
Yes, they
brilliant.
They all are, and it's such a cliche, but they're all like literally playing. I don't want to say above themselves, but to their.
That team is more than the sum of its parts, almost, isn't it?
Yeah,
we have got some fantastic players out there, but when you put them together, they're suddenly even better.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you want to go with an ugly, or should we?
Well, I've seen 2 red cards this week.
Yeah. I thought the one I know it was not against us, it was in our favour, but the one about the kid last night, the 17-year-old, kind of looking at it, and I think the ref could have just almost given the goal and said, you got lucky there, kid.
Yeah.
I know that's not how you play professional football, but the ball was going in anyway. You could have just...
You probably had a better view of that than I did from mine. You know.
No, I mean it was right, but I was like, oh, that's just because he was so young. If that had been one of their senior players, I'd have been like, yeah, no, get rid of him. I don't care. But yeah, the red cards give them decisions to make. Again, as you said, apologies to Mr. Bennett if he didn't do it, but it certainly looked like that. Right. So before I move on to, we'll talk about a little bit about Walsall. We're going to do a very, very quick, a little thing which Mark has helped me with again. So. So once again, thanks to Mark Bravery on Twitter or Amber Ailman on the forum. I gave him a little challenge this week to choose a more local pub, because obviously we're not away this week, we're just at home, and I pretty much have a grudge against most pubs in Sutton, which probably says a lot about me rather than the pubs. And he's gone for, he said it's in enemy territory, but he wants to go for the Hope, because it's a brilliant little pub and lots of ales, and obviously a very well-known Sutton fan works there as well. So it's the Hope in Carshalton, not in Sutton. But if you go in there and say Sutton Podcast sent you, they'll go, who? Well, I don't know anything about you, mate. But that's the pub of the week. Now, just to talk about quickly Walsall. We don't know an awful lot about these clubs, any of the clubs that we're facing. But what are you looking forward to over the weekend?
Well, that's I think that's a very good choice for pub of the week. So if I'm going to the pub, I will go to that pub. So yes, excellent choice. Yeah, as you say, Walsall, again, a bit of an unknown quantity. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying Sutton United have never played Walsall in any competition, unlike Colchester. And it's quite hard it's a hard one to call. Walsall, I was looking at the league table, and it is really tight at the top, isn't it? I mean, if you look at where we are, the sides between us and second place, I think, including second place actually, so second to fifth, there's only a couple of points in it. So in fact, if they all drew and we won by 3 goals, we'd be second in the league. Isn't that ridiculous? That's
something to look forward to over the weekend. Are they playing each other? They're not playing each other, are they?
They're not playing each other, no. But the problem is they are all playing sides in the bottom half of the league.
Oh.
Yeah.
See what you did there. You got me all up, excited, looking at the table, and now I'm down again.
Well, you can't rely on anyone else to get results. All you can do is look at your own side. So
exactly.
we all we've got to do is try and win. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, I don't know an awful lot about Walsall. Well, but they're, I mean, where are they in the league? They must be bottom half, because everyone's bottom 14th, half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so only just bottom half, but still, it's difficult to call, because the sides that we haven't done so well against. I mean, we've lost to Rochdale, we've lost to Oldham.
Yes.
We've lost to sides that aren't doing well, but then we had an absolutely brilliant win against Port Vale, who are really are doing well. We know we lost to Swindon, who are doing well. And it's pretty unpredictable at the moment with us, isn't it? Especially with all these injuries, because you can't really... It's difficult to look at form when you've got a lot of injuries, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Walsall they're pretty much middle of the road. They've got 14 games, 4 wins, 5 draws, 5 losses, although they've not been beaten in their last 5, apparently. But that said, it's just one of those weird ones, again, that we're playing these clubs that you've heard about all your life. They're a proper league club. It's Walsall.
Pass them on the motorway whenever you go up to North West.
Yeah, it's Walsall. If we got them in the FA Cup 5 years ago, we'd be like, oh, that's a big tie.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a normal league game. Yeah, I'm like you. I don't know a huge amount about them. I was never really overly interested in our opponents most of the time, to be quite honest with you. I'm just more like, I just want to beat them. I don't care who they are. But
yeah, I've been a bit non-committal and waffly with that one, but I mean, I would like to see 3 points. I would like to see that, but of course I would. We all would.
Yeah, if we were,
that's the question.
Yeah, if we were to get the 3 points, we would be over our halfway to our magic 50 before a third of the season's up. So that would be,
and it would give us a nice. I mean, after the Colchester game, it would be really nice sort of building on the momentum, because we've got. I think we've got a lot of away matches coming up, haven't we?
Yeah.
Actually, this cup competition is getting in the way as well. So
yeah.
That's always difficult to kind of predict as well.
Yeah. So we've got the looking forward a little bit. We've got the FA Cup and then the Wimbledon and the Papa John's or the other way. No, yeah, I think it's that way around.
It is that way around.
Yeah. And then we're back to league. But that's one of the good things about having a little loss in the middle of a run is it breaks up a winning run and takes some of the pressure off a little bit, and you get to build it all again. So
That's a good way of looking at it. Actually,
that's what we'll do. We'll just rebuild it again. But I'm going to wrap it up there. Apart from one other question, you have managed to somehow get yourself a reputation as the baking lady.
Oh.
And I did hear that. Well, it seems to be pressure on that you're expected to provide these treats now. Will there be treats at Walsall, or your busy life not going to do it this week?
Oh, there'll be treats at Walsall.
There'll be treats.
Come and find me. Anyone who's at the game, come and find me. I've always got treats. I'm the tuck shop, basically. Some of my mates used to pop out of the ground there's a little corner shop, not quite opposite the ground, but near it. And you can't do that anymore because you can't go out and come back in again.
No.
So I'm the tuck shop now.
You are the tuck shop.
I mean, like I always say, I'm not going to tread on the toes of the T-bar. So I'm never gonna be giving out burgers and chips.
Not
but
contraband.
they don't do a lot of. They don't do pudding, and I do.
Exactly.
So come and see me after your chips. You want pudding?
Do we get an exclusive what it is this week, or is it still going to be a surprise?
I'm never quite sure what it's going to be because it tends to be whatever's left over. I mean, I do a lot of baking at home, which often means I've got a lot of leftover ingredients, and I'm like, I'll just throw that together and make something out of it. So I don't always know what it's going to. I've got some mates coming over Friday night, so I'm doing a little bit of making a few of things for them to eat, and I'm just going to see what's left over from that.
Exactly.
Well, you get my leftovers. I'll say this just to quickly add to that I'm not gonna, I never charge money for anything, but I do ask people to donate to a charity, which I will. This week is going to be Stonewall.
Stonewall.
So I'm gonna have. I'm just going to request that anyone who takes a treat off me, which you're absolutely welcome to do, if you can afford to make a donation to Stonewall, please do.
And even if you don't take a treat, you can just do it for the ones who didn't manage to make a donation.
Good point.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing Sarah/Sal's surprise. Need to think of somehow saying baking with an S at the end, and you can have perfect alliterations there. But I will. They're
not always baked, so I'll think of something.
Yeah, exactly. I know you love your little your word plays and whatnot. And
I do.
Yes. So we will see you on Saturday. Thank you very, very much, and let's hope there's another 3 points in the weekend.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Mike. It's been a very pleasant chat.
No worries. Thank you. And joining me now is helping to preview the Walsall game at the weekend is Simon from Walsall Fan TV. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Nervous for Saturday, mind you.
What we'd like to do on the show is a little just introduction of yourself. Tell us about yourself, who you are, and your Walsall connections. Essentially, it is a case of who are you?
I've got you. Simon Ward. I run Walsall Fan TV. It's a YouTube channel that really burst into life from the shadows during the lockdown. We started streaming watch-alongs and that sort of stuff, and sort of gained some popularity from that. I've supported Walsall since 1981, which obviously was way before I was born, obviously. And I've never lived in Walsall.
Oh, right.
My dad was from Brownhills, and I was born in Cosley, which is sort of about 7 miles away from Walsall, and I'm much closer to West Brom, the Wolves, and even Villa and Blues, I think, are closer than Walsall. But you can't change your team, and that's where my dad took me. And he only took me once, so I had to get my own way thereafter. And most of my mates are Wolves fans, and they're trying to get me to support the Wolves. But Walsall, it's there, isn't it?
Just something stuck.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
And
so my mate tried to get me to support the Wolves. I went over there, and it was long ball, hoof football, and then Walsall always played good passing football. And it's much more entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And then you stick with it, don't you? And the mantra of the channel, which most football fans will be perfectly in line with, is the joy and the pain.
Yes, we,
And
we've
Walsall had their fair share of pain last season, while Sutton were on cloud nine.
absolutely, yeah, we're definitely living some sort of dream. We know none of us actually dreamt it, but it's it's a dream from somewhere. They keep saying the Salford lot is the fairy tale, but when you look at the money pumped into it, you've got to say, well, hang on a second, let's look at Sutton. There's we've done the
Yeah,
same as
that's it.
Salford on a shoestring.
Yeah, that's brilliant, really. I think the fairy tale area for me, in fact, it happened to be the best weekend of my life, you could say. Um, I got married on the 10th of August 2003, which was the Sunday, and the Saturday was Walsall kicked off in the Championship and beat West Bromwich Albion 4-1.
Marvelous,
That was a weekend that obviously will be with me for a long time.
brilliant. So on that, your 2003, your championship.
Yeah, we went up into the Championship. We started after the first game of the season. We were top of the league and West Brom were bottom. But at the end of the season, West Brom were top and we were bottom, and
Oh,
our demise sort of and all that.
since then, well, we've kind of gone almost exact opposite there.
Yeah,
So we were 11 years, well, 12 years ago, I guess, in the Ryman League, and that's basically you've got your National League, then your National North and South, and then underneath you've got regional divisions.
yeah, that's
Um,
it. Yeah,
so
yeah,
essentially, what Sutton has done, and a lot of perhaps I'd say younger supporters of other clubs don't really realise the magnitude of it. It would be the same as a club in this division getting to the Premier League in the next 11 years.
yeah,
So
that's it.
that's why our ground is perhaps not the most beautiful to look at, but it's beautiful for us. Um, but it's just an amazing thing from Sutton. I know it's really really biased, but it's just mental. But
No, it's a good story. I think obviously the ground at some point will sort of catch up,
yeah,
but I think establishing yourselves in League Two is the priority.
yeah,
But the way you're going, you might not be staying in League Two
yeah.
for a positive reason.
So I had someone on last week, and she was making comment about us being in the playoff places, and oh my God, wouldn't it be funny if we snuck into the playoffs or went up? And the chairman overheard her, and he was quite curt and told her to shut up, stop having these conversations. But how are you guys looking forward to something? I mean, it's an odd one because you wouldn't have played us before. We're struggling to think of a time we've ever played each other.
I can't recall. I can't recall. In all honesty, now this is rather embarrassing. I thought it was Sutton from Sutton
Sutton
Coldfield,
Coldfield, yeah.
and I was planning to go. I was thinking that's a nice local one, and then when I looked a bit more closely, it was hang on, it's Sutton United. Where's this? And then looked where it was. I was thinking, oh no, I'm not going to get to there.
I actually think there is a Sutton United in your area as well. I've got a feeling. I've
I
seen it
think
on.
that the Sutton Coldfield one, Sutton
Yeah,
United as well.
yeah. I think it's one of those really odd things that the two FAs would have obviously allowed it because the two clubs are nowhere near each other and it's not going to matter. Um, here we are, and it matters. But how you sort of I know I spoke to you earlier on your Walsall Fan TV. So if any Sutton fans are watching, you can watch me humiliate myself there. But if you stuck a prediction, you reckon you're going to beat us 2-1? I think you said.
That's my optimistic prediction. To be honest, I think we played Barrow last week, and they equalised in the last minute of injury time. But first half, we had 8 shots on target. First half, their keeper played an absolute blinder. We should have been out of sight by half time. So if Walsall play in a similar fashion and convert some of the chances, at some point we're going to give somebody a right hiding. I don't know whether it's going to be Sutton, but I think at some point we will.
Yeah, we had that very similar to that ourselves. I'm not one for the facts and figures, so some of these may be slightly inaccurate, but we were at Exeter and we for 70 minutes played them off the park. Their manager came out and said, I have no idea how I'm talking to you after winning that game, and they beat us 2-0, but we were just all over them.
Yeah.
Could have given them a real hiding. And I think it was the next game or very shortly afterwards we played Carlisle, and it was 4-0, and it
4-0,
was
yeah, I
yeah,
saw
it
that.
was although I say easy, there were still moments of me standing there going, yeah, if they nick one now, we could be in trouble. But
It could all go pear-shaped.
yeah, but yeah, it just was. It will. You're right. At some point it will click. Obviously, hopefully not Saturday, but any other day.
In fairness, I know my prediction was 2-1 Walsall win, but I think, in honesty, I think I'd be happy with a point.
Well, you won't get many of them with Sutton.
Well, I was going to say, you've only drawn 2, so
Yeah.
we were draw specialists last. I think we drew about 18 games last season.
Did you?
Something like that.
Yeah, we I think we had some draws in our first few games. I think we had Salford and Scunthorpe. And since then, it's been mental wins or mental losses. We've had lots of goals in the last couple of minutes. We lost Oldham, which is a kick in the teeth because they weren't doing great at all at the time.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
but we were 1-0 up, and I think collectively we all started to panic and just started thinking, oh God, hang on, let's hold on for the win. And we just all the players just dropped back, and they managed to get 2 goals in the last, I think, 2-3 minutes.
League 2 is not a division for trying to defend.
No, it's
not for that. Walsall concede late goals and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is annoying.
Yeah. But hopefully it's going to be a good game.
Hopefully there'll be goals. I think there's one weakness which it's hardly big news really. I'm sure I'm not giving away anything that's going to affect the game. But our left side is very slow. We've got Manny Month centre half on the left, and Stephen Ward, the Republic of Ireland international. They're both slow. They're very smart and they're very good on the ball, but I mean they struggle for pace. Yeah,
you probably won't enjoy our wingers up against them because they some of them are rapid. David Ajiboye especially is. Yeah, and we were discussing
Enzio plays on the left, doesn't he?
He does play on the left. I think they do switch them. So I mean, because we've got Enzio, David, we've got quite a few attacking options. To be honest, it's really difficult to sort of predict who we're going to get up front. I think Richie Bennett's probably suspended, so we can assume he's not going to be in the team. But we've still got 4 players. Any 4 of the remaining strikers could quite easily start. But I think
you've put together for a team with not many finances. You seem to have got a good squad together. As you said earlier, you got a few players that are out.
Yes, we have Eastman and Harry Buteman. I'm not sure exactly how long Eastman's out for, but Harry Buteman just broke his collarbone or dislocated his collarbone, so he's going to be a little while. But we had a player come in because Harry got COVID earlier in the season, and we had a young guy come in that we got earlier in the close season, Alistair Smith, and he's just been absolutely amazing. For a young guy, he's just literally slotted in, and he's just done brilliantly. And then when Harry came back, Matt, the manager, was basically saying, this is a terrible problem. It's a nice problem to have, but basically this guy's come in and done so well, and Harry's been my best player for me all the time I've been here, and I can't get him back in the team. Unfortunately, when he did get back in the team, he went down against Swindon and broke his shoulder. Well, it dislocated his shoulder. So hopefully we're going to have a great weekend. I just wanted to put another little plug out for your channel. It's Walsall Fan TV, and you didn't mention it, and I'm hoping I'm not going to put you on the spot and embarrass you or anything, but you're an author as well, so I know you try and keep them a bit separate, but I'll drop you in it.
No, not at all. It's good. I have a love of new technology and that sort of stuff. So I've written. I'm just in the process of finishing my 3rd book in the Awakening series, and that is sort of a mix-up really of futuristic romantic drama is the first one. That's Finding Love in 2045. The second one, Awoken, that's more of a thriller, sort of futuristic thriller. And Time to Click, there's a little bit of horror in that, but that's a bit of a thriller / romance sort of thing as well. But the one that your listeners may be more interested in is a book I've got out for proofread at the moment, which is a non-fiction, Why You Should Teach Your Children About Gambling. And I've got some recovering gambling addicts that are sort of reviewing the book at the moment, and I'm having some very, very good feedback.
Excellent. I mean, you obviously wouldn't know this at all, but I used to do some horse tipping.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I was okay. It was always in profit, but it was one of the things that really, really conflicted me. Is people. One of the reasons I started it is I wasn't able to win any money because all of my accounts were closed down very, very quickly, or limited to like 20p bets, which irritates because they say it's obviously for your protection. And I'm like, it's not for my protection at all. But then you read about stories where people lose £300,000, lose their house, and you're like, hang on a minute, how can you limit me for winning a couple of £100? And then
if you're taking money out of them, they'll stop your account.
Yeah,
they're there to make money.
Yeah,
obviously.
well, I get they're there to make money, and I do understand that, but these strict rules they have for people winning do need to be applied to the people who are losing that much. Because if you're
that's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's oh, sorry, I didn't even know about that book, and now I'm on my little soapbox now.
No, well, to me, it's I've never really been in trouble gambling, but I can understand how people get into trouble.
Yes.
And I've had times when I've sort of got carried away a little bit with it, and then I always test myself. And this for anybody who's got any addictions or potential addictions, the challenge to oneself is, can I step away from this completely for 1 month? So that's what I do, whether it was chocolate or crisps and that sort of stuff. Am I addicted to this? Can I stop it for a month and not be affected by it?
Yeah.
But the essence of the book is about education, because if you say to children and adults really, don't gamble, it's a bad idea, you're going to lose lots of money, don't gamble. You do that, it doesn't make any sense to people, and they'll just carry on. What the book does is explains the different sides of the game, as in the promoters, the side they're on, and the odds, the real odds that you're faced with, things like responding to competitions on commercial radio, for example.
Yeah.
The odds are so stacked in their favour. It's more the phrase I use. It's not gambling. It's teasing.
Yes.
And sort of coining that phrase really, and sort of going and looking at all forms of gambling, from sort of football betting to casinos, and as I say, the commercial radio stuff, the national lottery.
Yeah.
That, and going into details on that.
Excellent.
In a very sort of in a relaxed, chatty kind of way, with some of my own personal experiences. In fact, one very bad personal experience on spread betting that I attempted, that I did lose a lot of money on.
Yeah.
But I learned from the experience and added it to my life lessons, I suppose.
Yeah, no, perfect. Well, do you know what? I'm glad we stumbled on that, because that is really, really interesting. I would never even brought it up. Let us know when it is out, and I'll sort of let people know and drop the link as well. So yeah, please do. So getting back on to the football. Obviously, I wish you very well for the season, apart from Saturday and the reverse fixture. But hopefully it's a good game. I sound like Bruce Forsyth. But we will wrap it up there. Thank you very, very much.
It's been a pleasure.
As I say, if anyone else wants a little preview, it's Walsall Fan TV. There's a YouTube channel, or your Twitter handle is it at Walsall?
It's at Sedgley Simon.
Oh, is that for the Walsall one as well?
The Walsall Fan TV handle on Twitter is at Sedgley Simon.
At Sedgley Simon. Okay, I will make sure you're tagged in to it as well. So
that's it. My author stuff, I can send you links for that. And
perfect.
Sort of, yeah, because I've got separate accounts for my author stuff.
Perfect. Lovely. Well, thank you very much.
That's been
and
brilliant, Mike.
We'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
That wraps us up for this week. Thank you to my guests Simon and Sarah. Don't forget to find Sarah at the Walsall Games. Get your cakes and make your donation to Stonewall. Thank you for listening, and I hope it's a great match. See you soon. Bye-bye. United! 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 United!